Nico Collins is blowing up training camp. He's blowing up training camp. I have been on the Nico Collins train for well over a year now. My NFL comp for him, Kenny Golladay. He's been absolutely fantastic in training camp. Now, what does that mean? We don't really know a whole lot about what that means exactly. They're playing in shorts. Right? The quarterbacks are wearing non-contact jerseys. And they're under duress. But you can see all of these videos from training camp. Nico Collins, all my favorite rookies are just having a ball in training camp. Kylan Hill's killing it up in Green Bay. Nico Collins is killing it with zero quarterback help in Houston. Just today, Davis Mills, the Texans' first pick in the draft this year, underthrew a wide-open Nico Collins who had the defender beat. You can find the video on Twitter. So he's killing Nico. But Nico, nonetheless, is still doing great things. Guys, thanks for checking us out tonight. Welcome into the Mind of McConnell, presented by the RotoBros Fantasy Football Podcast. So we're going to do kind of something a little different. Obviously, the show is live now. The show is live. We're going to be taking some questions tonight from you guys. So if you have waiver questions, trade questions, draft questions, if you're still in rookie drafts, or I'm in the middle of one actually, or if you are coming up on your redraft league drafts, send those questions in. We'll get them up and we'll put them on the screen and help you guys out and get you guys all set. Okay, so you guys know this is really the second time we've gone live for the RotoBros podcast. Moving forward, all the other shows are going to be live. But tonight it's going to be more of a Mind of McConnell Q&A tonight. But of course, the big news today was, over the weekend, obviously we had the Carson Wentz news. And, he's going to be out for a while with a foot injury. Could be 5 to 12 weeks. Well, apparently today, all of a sudden, we find out that Quentin Nelson, one of the best all-around offensive linemen in the entire league, is probably going to be missing 5 to 12 weeks, probably more like 5 to 8 weeks, with pretty much the same injury that Carson Wentz has. So now everybody's panicking on Jonathan Taylor. But guys, this is where the smart players separate themselves from the amateurs. Because smart players are going to realize that the Colts offensive line, we're going to get to everybody's questions here in just a second, but smart players are going to realize that the Colts offensive line is still one of the NFL's best, even without Quentin Nelson. And it's not like Quentin Nelson tore an ACL or ruptured an Achilles and is out for the entire year. He's going to be back. Quentin Nelson is going to be back. And look, we're 6 weeks away from the season. The injury is 5 to 12 weeks at the absolute worst. Okay? But more than likely, both Carson and Quentin are going to be back by week 4 or 5. That's probably what we're looking at here, unless there's some sort of setback. So the season's not over for Jonathan Taylor. The season's not over for the Colts. We don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. It looks like they're going to be going with Jacob Eason. So we'll see how that works out. But Jonathan Taylor's fine, and this is where the smart players separate themselves from the weaker players, from the rookies, from the guys who haven't been doing it as long, for the guys that are overreacting too quickly. Does this hurt Jonathan Taylor? Sure. I had him as RB9. I had him finishing as RB9 this year, before Carson and Nelson's injury news. And yeah, this does dock him a little bit. And I moved him down to 11. RB 11. So it's not the greatest thing in the world, but he's still a 22-year-old, do-it-all, workhorse running back who is a physical freak, one of the best all-around running back prospects we've seen in a long time. Okay? Probably one of the best 3 all-around running back prospects we've seen since Peterson. One of the other ones obviously being Barkley. So this is not a guy that's just going to all of a sudden fall off the planet. Okay, he's still going to be an RB1. He's still going to get a load of work, and they're probably going to lean on the run even more. And I'm not worried about Marlon Mack. I've gone over the history of running backs coming back and being relevant and being impactful from ruptured and torn Achilles before. It ain't good. Okay? It's not good. Here's a hint. It's never been done in the history of the league. Go back and look at the list. It's never been done. So I wouldn't be worried about Marlon Mack. He would be the first ever in NFL history to do it. In modern NFL history to do it. So I don't think you need to drop Jonathan Taylor if you own him. I don't think you need to be selling him, for magic jelly beans here. Okay? I think we need to kind of calm down. Everybody gets the sleeper updates or the fantasy life updates, or they go to Roto or NBC Sports Edge or whatever it is now. Not Roto World anymore. Everybody gets the news, and everybody panics when they see, oh my God, Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson out for 8 to 12 or 5 to 12 weeks. Calm down. Pump the brakes. It's not the end of the world. Jonathan Taylor's going to be just fine. But you shouldn't be going out and trying to sell him immediately. You shouldn't. He's going to be fine. The smart players are going to realize this is prime time to buy Jonathan Taylor. Now, if you want to sell him, find the guy that's trying to buy Jonathan Taylor and sell him for as much as you can. Okay? But this is the time to buy. Because you're not going to get too many opportunities. I tweeted this out today. You can follow me on Twitter at Wizard of Roto. This is the time to buy. And I tweeted it out today. You are not going to get a lot of opportunities where a 22-year-old do-it-all workhorse running back who has been proven in this league as a top 8 RB option behind a still one of the best offensive lines in the league on a run-heavy team, a team that is very good, very well coached offensively, and a team with a great defense. So they're going to control the clock. They're going to run the football a lot. I promise we're going to get to the questions, but I had to get that out. You're not going to get a whole lot of these opportunities, so take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. All right, first question in. 10-man PPR Superflex. Got the 10th pick. Ooh. Anybody who knows me knows that in 10-man and 12-man leagues, in a 10-man league, I want to pick 8 to 10. 12-man, I want to pick 10 to 12. So I already like where this is headed. Any advice for strategy or just best available? Look, this question, I love it because I have done multiple shows on this. We've done Mark and I, my partner on the RotoBros podcast, we've done several shows on and debated this. Like, we don't see eye to eye on this strategy. But again, I'm going to try to lay out the argument for why this is my strategy, especially this year. So in your situation, and this is the same thing goes for 12-man leagues, but especially in 10-man leagues, it is fine to go into the draft with a strategy for the first 2, maybe 3 rounds, okay? Because for the most part, those first 2 rounds, they're going to be pretty predictable. You pretty much know what's going to happen. You pretty much know where guys are going to fall, okay? We know that it's Superflex, so I'm glad he included that. But you pretty much know what's going to happen. But after... 3rd round might be okay too, but especially after the 3rd round, do not throw everything out the window because at the once you get to the 4th round, nothing is cemented, nothing is set in stone. So don't go into the draft saying I'm going to do this in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, because what happens when that strategy, when the draft board does not fall the way that you thought it would? Now you have pigeonholed yourself into a strategy that is no longer relevant to the draft board and what it looks like now. Okay? So my strategy, to answer the question, my strategy with the first couple picks, I am going running back. Don't give a damn if it's Superflex. I don't care. Especially in redraft. I'm going running back because I want to, and here's why. I want to secure as many workhorse, do-it-all workhorse running backs as humanly possible. As many top-tier workhorses as humanly possible. If I can get 2 of them, great. If I can get 3 of them, great. So one of my favorite combos is I'm trying to get 2 out of 3 when I'm picking 10th or 11th or 12th or something like that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to couple guys like Zeke and Najee, Zeke and Eckler, Eckler and Najee. You could throw Chubb in there. You could throw Aaron Jones in there. Those are the types of guys that I'm trying to get 2 out of any of those names. And in the third round, I've been getting a lot of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's on the most dynamic offense in the league, behind a completely rebuilt and what should be a pretty near elite offensive line this year. And you're also getting DAndre Swift in the third round. So if I can start off the draft with those 3 running backs, I'm happy with punting wide receiver until the 4th round. Okay, again, let's wait and see what happens in the 4th round before we decide to go wide receiver. But I'll forego quarterback and wide receiver for 2 to 3 rounds. And why is that important? Why do I say that's important to get? Because RB1, running back's not the position. RB1 is the position. RB1's the position. You want as many top flight RB1s who are going to get a massive amount of workload, whose touch security, I've sort of dubbed it touch security. What is touch security? When the backups pretty much are irrelevant. We know that Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly are just guys. They ain't moving the meter. We know that Anthony McFarland and Benny Snell they're not moving the meter. They're not a threat to Najee Harris's 350 plus touches if he stays healthy. Same thing for Eckler. Okay? For the most part, same thing for Aaron Jones. Ezekiel Elliott. I like Tony Pollard, but I don't care what sleeper blurb you read last weekend. I don't believe personally that Zeke is going to lose more than or lose his 60% plus share of that workload. So I think that's safe. So if I can get 3 of those workhorses with a great amount of touch security, I'm fine with that. And why is that important? Because what's the most important position in fantasy? We know, running back. And because which position is a revolving door? Which position has the highest amount of turnover? Running back. So knowing that, gobble up all of the touch security at running back that you can get and secure yourself as much as humanly possible. Okay? Because if injuries do happen and Eckler does go down with an injury, I don't want Chase Edmonds with James Conner looming stepping into my RB2 role. Okay? Sorry, I don't want that. That's not the type of touch security I'm looking for. Because Chase Edmonds and James, they don't have touch security. We don't know which one's going to lead the backfield. So I would much rather have Clyde Edwards-Helaire as my RB3 and turning into my RB2 in case of an injury than Chase Edmonds. So for me, to answer that's a long-winded way to answer the question, but I also wanted to explain the strategy. Yes, I am going back-to-back running back, and sometimes if the board falls to me in the way that I am hoping it to, I'll take 3 running backs as well. Because wide receiver is the deepest position with the most quality. And we have a read on what can happen at wide receiver better than we do, once we get past RB10. Right? So knowing that, yeah, if I can get, Terry McLaurin, I'm not upset with Terry McLaurin as my wide receiver 1 if he's in the 4th round. Or Adam Thielen. Who's going to be upset about that? And of course, we're talking redraft. We're not talking dynasty startup. But who's going to be upset at that? Now you've drafted 4 players who have a high probability of being tier 1 at their positions. I'm perfectly fine with that. So that is why I'm going running back, and that is why that would be my strategy. But if you want, a little bit more information on that, and you have any follow-up questions, definitely ask him or hit me up on Twitter as well. All right, let's see. Brandon McLemore says CMC or Cook full PPR. Who's your priority? I'm going to be honest with you. Dalvin Cook's my number one running back this year. He's my number one running back. And look, Christian McCaffrey is RB3 for me, so they're not far behind. I mean, flip a coin. It's not. You can't crucify anybody for choosing one of these guys. They're both going to be top 5 fantasy running backs as long as they stay healthy, right? So I'm going to lean Dalvin this year. But look, that's going to be my priority. So I'll take Dalvin over Christian McCaffrey, but I mean it's splitting hairs for the most part. So you really can't go wrong there, Brandon. Let's see. What do you like to do at that 12 spot in the first and second round in a PPR redraft? We just talked about it. Pretty much the same answer in a 12-man league. I'm going running back. There's no doubt about it. I don't care who's available. Because Eckler's going to be there. Zeke's been there. Chubb, Aaron Jones, Najee, they've been there. I'm going to take 2 of those guys at that position, and I'm going to go into round 3 knowing that I have 2 workhorse RB1s with a high amount of touch security. They don't have to worry about their backups. And I have that security. I feel secure at the most important position in fantasy football. So yeah, that's where I'm going to sort of piggyback on the last question as well. Draft coming up on Saturday, picking 12 out of 12 teams, thinking about going running back, or wide receiver. It's running back. It's running back. Look at that. 3 straight times in a row I get the same question. I love it. I feel like it's risky to go wide receiver the first 2 picks. I'm in the same situation. That's 4 people. Same situation. Look, running backs. Collect as many. Guys, we talk about it all the time in the Fantasy Black Book. I'll even show you. The Fantasy Black Book on Amazon. I co-author this with Joe Pisapia. I've been doing it for the last 2 years. Go check it out on Amazon. We talk about RPV, relative position value. How much better is a top flight RB1, okay, than RB12 or RB10 or RB11, right? It matters. So get as many of those guys with the high ceilings and the high touch security as you can, because it matters at the most important position in fantasy. So I would not go wide receiver. To me, it is too risky. And you end up having a weak running back build at the most important position in fantasy. Pratap says, Chris, who are some underrated wide receivers that you like this year? Underrated wide receivers. Well, there's a couple of them. I think a lot of people are hearing what Urban Meyer said about DJ Chark, and they are sort of kind of running for the hills. You know, there's a lot of LSJ hype, Laviska Shenault hype coming out of Trent. I'm not buying that. Not buying it at all. They brought in Marvin Jones. I think he will be that wide receiver too. I think they're still going to use Laviska Shenault the way he should be used in real life. He's built like a running back. Use him in these short and intermediate routes, and use him on these reverses and these wide receiver screens. Let him bang with the linebackers and smaller cornerbacks and build up those yak yards. That's how you need to use a guy like Laviska Shenault. But that, to me, that's not going to get you a whole lot of fantasy points. So I'm out on guys like Kadarius Toney and guys like Laviska Shenault. Guys that are going to be doing that. I think Rondale Moore's another one. I'm not drafting Rondale Moore because I think that's how he's going to be used. Those guys never pan out and give you week-to-week fantasy value in season-long managed leagues. So DJ Chark, to me, is the guy. He checks the size speed box for an alpha. He's got the alpha size, the alpha speed. We've seen him sort of break out before as well. And now he's got a generational quarterback under center. It's not like he's got just some normal, random, typical first-round quarterback, right? You know, when Blake Bortles was drafted, we know what Blake Bortles is now. He's a bust. But when Blake Bortles was drafted, You either hated him, you liked him, you really didn't know because he wasn't like a great prospect, but the class wasn't strong enough at quarterback for him to slide past the first round. So he was like just a guy. You know what I mean? And there's other guys like that as well that have been drafted in the first round. But that's just an example. Trevor Lawrence isn't that. Trevor Lawrence is one of the two best quarterback prospects since Luck. The other one, in my opinion, being Joe Burrow. So you've got a generational quarterback now, and the wide receiver one is DJ Chark. He's absolutely underrated to me. I think Cortland Sutton is another one. I think the Broncos, it's a shame because the Broncos have two guys who could be alpha receivers. You've got a volume hog, already one of the best route runners in the NFL, in Jerry Jeudy. And then you've got a guy with an alpha build and alpha profile all the way around with Cortland Sutton, who's already broken out in the NFL. Now, we need him to take that next step, but I think that Cortland Sutton can. Unfortunately, it looks like he's going to have to do it with either Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. And none of us like Drew Lock. None of us trust him. And Michael Pittman would have been the other one, but of course, the Carson Wentz news sort of puts a little bit of cold water on that. Adjust the ranks. I think Michael Pittman is good. You guys know, anybody who listened to my scouting briefs last year on Michael Pittman, you guys would know that Michael Pittman was, to me, a Kenny Golladay clone. And I think that Michael Pittman is going to be in for a rock-solid career. I think he's a wide receiver that checks all the boxes when it comes to an alpha profile. But again, I don't know if is Jacob Eason going to be that guy for the first 5-6 weeks or 4 to 6. Who knows? And of course, that inconsistency, he's going to need to have that consistency under quarterback. And I think obviously he'll get that with Wentz if Wentz can stay healthy. And of course, that's always the question: can he stay healthy? So we'll see, further on down the line. But I think once Carson comes back and once Quentin Nelson comes back, I think Michael Pittman is a guy that right now I think people are obviously going to panic on. They're going to be selling a little bit. Now's another time to buy Michael Pittman. You could get some quality wide receiver depth for cheap. And then when Carson comes back, you probably haven't even been ravaged by wide receiver injuries yet. So you probably haven't even had to rely on Pittman to be in your lineup yet. And now guess what? Now Carson's back. Now Quentin's back. So that passing game gets a boost. And so when you need Pittman the most in your playoff run, boom, there you go. So I think Pittman is a buy low just like Jonathan Taylor is. I'm going after both of them. Let's see. Matt Paquette says, what about running back tight end? I assume he's talking about a draft strategy, first 2 picks. I don't mind you going after a tight. I think there are 3 tight ends this year that are positional advantages over your league mates week to week. I think it's Travis Kelce, obviously, Darren Waller, obviously. I think this year, based on pure volume, it is going to be TJ Hawkinson, and I think also, elephant in the room, Kyle Pitts, right? Even Matt Ryan agrees. Okay, so I think those are the 4 guys. I don't think George Kittle is going to be a positional advantage tight end any longer. When he was a positional advantage, he was the only one there, and he was staying on the field. Right now, we're having trouble trusting him to stay on the field as of late. And not only that, but you have dynamic, do-it-all wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, who I'm a massive fan of. And then you have Deebo Samuel, who has blossomed as well. So you have 2 reliable wide receivers now. You just traded up to draft Trey Sermon at running back. So you should have a more reliable running game this season. I just don't think the targets and the volume are going to be there for George Kittle, who I do think is probably the best all-around football player in the league. Or one of them. Arguably one of the best all-around football players in the league. But from a fantasy perspective, you want him, in real life, obviously. Now, he's my tight end 5, so he's right there. I think he can do it. But I'm not viewing George Kittle as that weekly positional advantage at tight end. And if you are playing in a 1 tight end league, I prefer tight end premium leagues. And when I say tight end premium, I don't mean extra points I mean you start 2 tight ends. Those are the real tight end premium leagues. Let's just make that clear. But if you're playing in a one tight end league, I can't really blame you for taking a tight end with one of your first 2 or 3 picks because you likely are getting a positional advantage over your league mates every single week. So if you're drafting Darren Waller in the 2nd or 3rd round, there's only 2 or 3 other guys, in my opinion, in your league that, that's 8 or 9 other people in your league that you're playing week to week that you are winning a full-on position in your matchup every single week. The only ones that you're not definitively beating at tight end is the Kelsey owner, the Pitts owner, and the Hawkinson owner. Other than that, you're beating every other owner in your league when it comes to tight end the vast majority of weeks. Right? So I don't think Kittle's going to be that guy. Those are the 4 guys. I can't really blame anybody. I'm still going running back because I think guys like they're going to be tight end ones this year, like Logan Thomas and Robert Tonyan. I don't think Robert Tonyan's ADP has really picked up where it needs to be, where I think it needs to be after this Aaron Rodgers news. I think it's still sort of hovering around sort of where it was pre-Aaron Rodgers news. So I think he's a value right now in redraft. So these are guys I think could be in that high tight end one argument that you could get a little bit later. So I'm not going tight end, but I certainly cannot crucify anyone that does. Dustin Filia, my good buddy, my old buddy. Where will CeeDee Lamb finish among all wide receivers in PPR scoring formats? 1st, 2nd, or 3rd? So I do have CeeDee Lamb finishing as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy for the Cowboys. To me, CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver 8. That's where I have him finishing. Hopkins right now is my number 1, fighting right there with Devontae Adams. Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, and DK Metcalf are right ahead of him. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if CeeDee Lamb finished as wide receiver 1 in all of fantasy. It just wouldn't. But I think that, look, you guys know I think Dak's going to win MVP. I've said it a million times on the podcast. I think the Cowboys are going to rip through that division. I think the Cowboys are going to win 12 or more games. I think they're going to win 12 or more games, and that's what we're going to see from the Cowboys this year. And I think CeeDee Lamb's going to be a big part of that. And if something happens to Amari Cooper, which happens quite a bit, CeeDee Lamb to the moon, right? CeeDee Lamb to the moon. You won't need Elon Musk to tweet about CeeDee Lamb to improve his stock. So CeeDee Lamb to me, with a healthy Amari Cooper, I think they've got 2 top 10 wide receivers. I have Amari Cooper finishing 10th. And then Keenan Allen 9, and then CeeDee Lamb 8. So I think CeeDee Lamb busts out, and he is going to prove to be an alpha wide receiver 1 in fantasy in 2021. So yeah, definitely all in on CeeDee Lamb for sure. Let's see. Going to some other questions here. Van Bush says 8 men in the box. 8 men in the box against Jacob Eason. Quite possible. Quite possible. Let's see. Josh Grantham says, with a heavy running back start to a draft, who are some of your favorite wide receiver targets rounds 8 and 11? Rounds 8 and 11. I would... let me pull this up here. Let me go to these ADPs here, and I'll kind of break that down. Now, I want to make sure that I'm letting you guys know I'm using Superflex 2 QB, ADPs. I'm not doing 1 QB leagues. Look, I'm sorry. 1 QB leagues to me, I have a couple of them, a couple of the archaic 1 QB leagues still in my repertoire for years. But for the most part, it's Superflex or die. Like you remember when everybody started moving over to PPR for good, and that became the standard over standard scoring? That's what needs to happen with Superflex leagues against 1 QB leagues. That's what needs to happen with for 2 tight end leagues against 1 tight end leagues. Right? You need to make those leagues the standard. So I'm going to give you the wide receiver ADP for or that's what I'm looking at for 2 QB Superflex league. So look, I think a lot of guys that I'm really liking this year. I think a lot. Look, he's getting a lot of pub right now because of training camp and all that. Regardless of this training camp hype train, I was on it before this training camp hype train. This isn't a surprise to me. Zach Wilson is a big arm quarterback. Zach Wilson has an immense amount of arm talent. And Elijah Moore is going to be a problem. from day one, week one, snap one, Elijah Moore is going to be a problem. So I think Elijah Moore, you're able to get Elijah Moore as like your wide receiver 5 right now, 5, 6 on your team. So I think Elijah Moore's a guy that you could really look at very, very late that can make an impact in his rookie season. I like Elijah Moore to make a bigger impact than guys like Rondale Moore or Amari Rodgers or Rashad Bateman and even Jalen Waddle. Okay, I'm huge on Elijah Moore. I think he is going to be one of the best all-around rookies in totality this season. And I'm not saying he's going to be a wide receiver 1 or even a wide receiver 2. But for a rookie in his first year, I think we're going to see a lot of great things from Elijah Moore, obviously barring, he stays healthy. I think that Tyler Boyd is a guy that you can get really late. Again, I've told you guys a million times, I want to tie myself to Joe Burrow any way that I can. Because this is going to be a team. I think they're going to be competitive. And I don't mean they're going to, be competitive for a wild card spot. But what I'm saying is I think they're going to score a lot of points. Okay? They don't have a great defense, so they're going to give up a lot of points, which means they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot to keep up. What's that going to equal? That's why I've got Joe Burrow in my top 10 at quarterback this year for fantasy. That's why I have Jamar Chase as wide receiver 13 to start. I think he's a wide receiver. I think he's essentially a wide receiver 1 in fantasy this year. I love T. Higgins. People are selling T. Higgins because Jamar Chase got drafted. I'm like, why? There's no reason. You could potentially have 2 wide receiver 1s. I don't think T. Higgins will be a wide receiver 1, but this could be an Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson sort of offense. And yeah, I think Joe Burrow's better than Kirk Cousins, so I think he can support 3 fantasy relevant wide receivers. So that's why I'm in on Tyler Boyd. I don't want Drew Sample. I don't want C.J. Uzomah, but I do want all 3 of those wide receivers. Kind of going down this line a little bit. I've told you guys before, I think, and this may be, this may be not as far down, but I think Devontae Smith, I don't care if he's hurt right now. Buy him low. Buy him low. Everybody's talking about, oh my God, the Slim Reaper. He's got really tiny legs. So did Deshaun Jackson. So did Jeremy Maclin. Both of those guys were alphas in Philadelphia. Both of those guys profile, especially Deshaun, profile like Devontae Smith. I think Devontae Smith's going to be a league winner by season's end as long as he's healthy. And that is one of my favorite stacks, the Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith stacks. Again, pretty much it's the Bengals, sort of like it is with the Bengals. They're going to be a team that scores some points, throws the ball a lot, has a bad defense, and I think that's going to equal Rager having a better season, Jalen Hurts being a top 12 quarterback. He'll be a QB1 in fantasy. And Devontae Smith being a league winner by season's end. So I'm all in on Devontae Smith. So I think he's another guy. I think Antonio Brown even can give you some added, some added value late in drafts. I think he's going later than he should. And look, we've seen Mike Evans get banged up before. And if Evans or Godwin gets banged up, Antonio Brown, why can't he be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy? I mean, think about it. If Mike Evans goes down, let's say week 9, and let's say maybe he's out for the season, why would we think that Antonio Brown can't be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy the rest of the year? So you could potentially get immense upside with a guy like Antonio Brown. Again, we're talking redraft here, but those are some guys that I really like late, Josh, and I think a lot of people need to pay a little bit more attention to those guys as well. Let's see here. Look, Mikey Cordero says running back, lock down your workhorses. He gets the logic. He gets it. That's what you have to do, folks. That's why I love picking at the end of drafts, not just this year, but for all eternity. I want to lock down these. Running back is a very there's a lot of guesses when it comes to running back, but not at the top flight RB1 workhorse level. You pretty much know what you're going to get if they stay healthy. If they don't stay healthy, why not bring another one off the bench or out of your flex into your running back 2 spot like Clyde Edwards-Helaire or DeAndre Swift or Antonio Gibson? My God, if you can get Antonio Gibson in the third round. I've done it a couple times. I've got cores, running back cores with Eckler and Najee Harris and Antonio Gibson. I mean, you've got an instant at the most important position of fantasy. You've got an instant positional advantage over almost every owner in your league. All right, let's keep going down here. Scrolling down the line. James Daughtry says, I went running back, quarterback, running back, ended up with Taylor, Swift, and Dobbins. And I see some people talking about Taylor Swift. I went running back, quarterback, running back, ended up with Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, and J.K. Dobbins. I don't hate that. The only thing for me, I'm a J.K. Dobbins OG. There's not a lot of people outside of Ohio that love JKD more than me. But we have to talk about the elephant in the room, or the bus in the room, and that's Gus Edwards, right? Gus the bus. He's going to be a problem for J.K. Dobbins on the goal line. Now, if he gets hurt, J.K. Dobbins to the moon. J.K. Dobbins RB1 if Gus Edwards gets hurt. But until then, we have to slow it down a little bit on J.K. Dobbins. Look, I love the offense. I love it. He'd probably be a top 10 running back for me this year if it wasn't for Gus Edwards, because J.K. Dobbins could do it all. He's a good pass blocker, so you can leave him. You can feel comfortable leaving him in on third downs. He's a good pass catcher. He can do that, and he's an excellent runner of the football. And he's playing behind a good offensive line. So I have J.K. Dobbins as my RB, anywhere between RB 20, RB 22 this year. And a lot of you are probably going to scoff and be like, what? What are you talking? Look, if Gus Edwards stays healthy, you're going to have to expect to be upset when you're watching NFL Red Zone and you see the Ravens are on the goal line and J.K. Dobbins goes to the bench and Gus Edwards comes in. We're going to be seeing a lot of that. And I hate it just as much as you do. But we've got to face reality here. We can't be thinking everything's going to be gummy bears and rainbows, because it's not. And so we have to be, I want so bad to put J.K. Dobbins in my top 15. Can't do it. Not when Joe Mixon's going to be a workhorse running back again, if he can stay healthy. Not when Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a workhorse running back. Doesn't have to worry about Le'Veon Bell or Damian Williams. Don't even get me started on Jerick McKinnon. He's going to be behind an elite offensive line. Antonio Gibson. Sorry, I can't put him ahead of Chris Carson. But I think, look, as your RB3, I like J.K. Dobbins. I like J.K. Dobbins more than I like Chase Edmonds as my RB3. That I can promise you. So I don't think that ended up too bad for you. I don't know who you got at quarterback, but obviously if you took a quarterback in the second round, you got a pretty damn good one. So that worked out good for you. So that's an option you can go with as well in a Superflex league. It gives you a little more flexibility. You can do that in a Superflex league and be fine. But you have to ask yourself, if DeAndre Swift gets hurt or if Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, do I feel comfortable with J.K. Dobbins as my RB3? I'm on the fence a little bit, but I am a little bit concerned about that, but I am confident enough that I'm fine with him being my RB3 and coming in a pinch. Jonathan Dow, thoughts on Darnell Mooney in Dynasty? Obviously, the analytics community loves him. My partner Mark loves him. I love Darnell Mooney. I think he's excellent. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. I don't think he's going to be impactful in fantasy as I think he's going to be in reality. Allen Robinson obviously there. Anthony Miller's gone, so I think that's a good thing. So I think that will help him. So he's a little more attractive. You can get him late. He's going as a value, in my opinion. And I like him in his ADP currently. So I think you could do a lot worse than Darnell Mooney where he's being taken in best ball and in managed season-long leagues. But I do worry. I do worry a little bit. I know everybody's sold on Justin Fields being this amazing passer and this amazing quarterback in the NFL. I think Justin Fields has a ceiling higher than almost any quarterback in this draft. Will he meet it? I don't know. And we'll see if coaching is a problem. I am taking Justin Fields, it should be noted, as my QB2 in Superflex drafts. I've done it a lot this year, and I think he's a solid option late in the draft as your QB2. Because look, feed Andy Dalton to the Rams and Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald in week 1. Bench Justin Fields in week 1. I'm fine with that. But week 2, get Andy Dalton the hell out of it. We've read the book on Andy Dalton. We know what he is. He's a decent backup. Okay. But he's not going to take you to the promised land. Justin Fields could, and he gives that offense a much higher ceiling than what a guy like Andy Dalton does. So I do think it's a boom for Darnell Mooney, and I do like Darnell Mooney. I do like him in Dynasty. So I would like to have some shares of him, but again, it's going to depend on the owner that owns him. Okay, if I'm trading, it's going to depend on the owner that owns him and how they view him. Because if they're overpricing him, I'll just find it somewhere else. Because I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I don't think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. I think at best, we're looking at Darnell Mooney as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, which is fine because there's some other wide receiver 3s that I'll take him over. But we also have to kind of keep in mind, that Allen Robinson is still there, and Allen Robinson is going to command those targets, right? We'll see what Cole Kmet does, even with Jimmy Graham still there. But we'll see what this passing offense looks like. I do like Mooney, and I will own him. But again, it just depends on the price point at this point. Let's see. Okay, so somebody agrees. They love the Jalen Hurts to Devontae Smith connection, just like I do. Matthew Bright says, "Get a new jacket." Says the Virginia Tech fan. Can't do that. Someone says, "Gibson is my keeper and only costing me a 6th round pick." That is insane value. I've got him as my RB13, just kind of, towing that, that RB1, fence there. And I think Antonio Gibson, we've talked about it on the podcast before, if Antonio Gibson can relegate generational talent J.D. McKissick for passing down work, Antonio Gibson is going to be, he's going to be a league winner. He will be a league winner if he gets the majority of the passing down work as opposed to J.D. McKissick. And I personally think this McKissick thing is a little more of a mirage than some people think it's going to be. Let's see. Keep on scrolling down here. Keep on scrolling down. Let's go. Eric Matthews says A-Rob is gone next year. He thinks Allen Robinson is gone. Means nothing to Mooney in Dynasty. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Darnell Mooney is going to be like an alpha or anything like that. I think he's got a role as a solid number 2 wide receiver, and they haven't really had that. The Bears, in my opinion, they haven't really had that since they had the Twin Towers there with Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. So I think Darnell Mooney could absolutely be at least in real life, a rock solid wide receiver 2 for that team in real life. James Peluso says DeAndre Swift, a sleeper of sorts. Yes, completely agree. I think DeAndre Swift could break fantasy football this year. Guys, I mean, I really think he could. I'm not worried about Jamal Williams as much. I don't think you guys realize, you see the logo here. Okay, I'm a Georgia Tech fan. But when it comes to analyzing talent and scouting players, I take all the bias out. I'm in love with DeAndre Swift. I don't care that he went to Georgia. DeAndre Swift is already, all around, one of the most talented running backs in the entire league. And I think that talent is going to win out, and we're going to see. I think Jamal Williams is a solid backup running back. But if we think that he's just going to take all the receiving work from DeAndre Swift, you got another thing coming. DeAndre Swift is going to be a workhorse, and I think we're going to see just how good he is. I know my buddy Kevin's watching right now. Kevin will attest to that as well. DeAndre Swift is I think he could absolutely break fantasy this year, and he could be an absolute league winner, just like Antonio Gibson could. It would not surprise me if DAndre Swift finishes as a top 5 running back. Look at that Detroit offensive line. Look at the offensive line. If Goff and Hawkinson and Quintez Cephas and Amon-Ra St. Brown and all the other guys they have up there, if they can find some semblance of offense, okay, in a passing game, DAndre Swift is going to absolutely eat. Now, of course, he's a running back, so he's got to stay healthy. But DAndre Swift, he's going to be an elite running back, I think, for a long time. So I'm all over DAndre Swift. I couldn't agree more with you, James. All right, thoughts on Myles Gaskin this year. So I actually mentioned this in a previous show, and I think I actually mentioned it in the RotoBros Fantasy Advice Lounge. I'll bring that up here in just a second. You can see it scrolling at the bottom if you want to know more about the Fantasy Lounge for the RotoBros. Definitely check that out. We'll get to that in a second. But Myles Gaskin, I think he's gonna be a workhorse. I do, and I think this is going to be an improved offense. I think this is going to be obviously it's going to be a good defense. They're going to control the clock. They're going to run the football a lot, and I think Gaskin is not going to have any shortage of touches. I don't think this is going to be a committee. I think Gaskin is going to get a large lion's share of these backfield touches. And look, he's not DAndre Swift. He's not going to blow, or Antonio. He's not going to blow you away when it comes to physicality and talent, but he's going to grind it out, and he's just going to produce. Okay, James Robinson was an RB. What did James Robinson fit? RB7 last year, behind a bad offensive line on a bad football team based on workload alone. So if Myles Gaskin could do that same thing and get a workload similar, there's no reason to think he couldn't finish as RB11 or RB12. We always see, every year we see some of these guys finish as RB1s that we never would have guessed would finish that way at season's end. You see all these generic preseason rankings from all these experts, and they all look the same. They all look the same. There's no surprises. They don't account for that. You go to ESPN's top 10, they're all the same. They're the same as Yahoo's. They're the same as CBS. They're the same as NFL. They're the same. All the big corporate, they're all the same. Even some of the guys you follow on Twitter, they're all the same. They're not accounting for changes. Mine do, by the way, because I build mine differently. But we'll get into that another time. But yes, I do think that Gaskin could be one of those guys that surprises and finishes as an RB1. Now, does that mean that I'm comfortable taking him as my RB2? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do I want him over Chase Edmonds? You bet your ass I do. I want Myles Gaskin over Chase Edmonds because the touch security is there. It's all about the touch security, guys. It's all about the touch security. Salvon Ahmed is not going to be taking a bigger chunk of Myles Gaskin's workload than James Conner is taking of Chase Edmonds, or vice versa. We don't even know if Chase Edmonds is going to be the RB1 on the team. So, yeah, I think Myles Gaskin is a guy that you need to everybody's forgetting about him because he doesn't wow you. He doesn't blow you away. But we see a lot of guys produce that don't do that. James Robinson was one of those guys, and he did it as an undrafted rookie free agent. Workload is important, and that is why I preach and say all the time on Twitter, in the Fantasy Lounge, with wide receivers, you chase the targets. With running backs, you chase the touches. Don't care how they're give me the touches. By the way, speaking of the RotoBros Fantasy Advice Lounge, you can join the RotoBros Fantasy Lounge, the best hidden gem in all of fantasy. Extremely affordable, $2 tier, $5 tier, silver and gold. Both tiers get you access into the Fantasy Lounge. What is the Fantasy Lounge? It is the best hidden gem in fantasy, the best place to talk fantasy, to talk sports, to talk strategy. We've got a channel dedicated to beer and whatever else you want to talk about. We've got a channel dedicated to best ball, DFS. If you play DFS, you want to win some money, you want to learn some great strategy from some great players in DFS, we've got it for you. Season-long football, baseball, and basketball, we cover it. We've got news channels. We've got trade start-sit channels. You guys are going to love it. And the best part about it, the first month is free. I'm giving it to you for free. Mark and I are giving it to you for free. And for $2, the silver tier, you get access into the lounge, and it's going to be the best decision you make from your fantasy career. I can promise you that. If you don't like it, you can leave at any time, okay? And you're not out a dime because your first month was free. But I promise you, you want to get in now before the season starts. Because when the season starts, it's going to go crazy. It's going to be nuts. I promise you. So forget the Facebook groups you're in. Forget the Twitter, community. Forget the Reddit community you're in. Get in the fantasy lounge. I promise you'll enjoy it. And there's no internet trolls either. You're not going to have to deal with that crap. And if you're a beginner, it's great because you're going to learn a lot of tips, a lot of tricks, a lot of strategy. Okay? And it's an absolutely great community. And we have some great people and some great minds in fantasy. And you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot. The $5 tier is going to get you access into the RotoBros Fantasy Lounge, and it's also going to get you a lot of extras as well, bonus content, the After Party podcast that Mark and I do each week. You're going to get Mark's weekly DFS podcast to prepare you for your DFS lineups. You're going to get Mark's snaps and targets reports every week. You're also, for you Dynasty heads, in the spring NFL draft season, you're going to get my NFL draft scouting briefs, 15 to 30-minute podcast series where I cover all the big names in the draft offensively and tell you what you need to know about their game, where they would be, what systems and schemes they would fit best in, which teams they would be best in, and where you should be ranking them and prioritizing them in your rookie drafts as well. So you're going to get a whole lot of stuff with this, and you can save 10% if you join yearly. Go to patreon.com/RotoBros. You can join right now. And again, the first month is free. You're not losing anything. I will send you the money right back. So definitely check that out. Again, that is patreon.com/RotoBros. You see it scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Definitely check that out. Goddard and Ertz. Next question. Goddard and Zach Ertz. Where will they fit this year? Look, I think Goddard is... there's a chance that Zach Ertz stays in Philadelphia. I don't think that chance is very good. I think he will get traded eventually, even if it's after week 1 kickoff. But I do believe that Goddard's going to be fine, and I think that you should still draft him with confidence. But Zach Ertz, guys, if he doesn't leave Philly, he's a tight end 1. If he does leave Philly, he's a tight end 1 in Buffalo or Indianapolis or maybe even Cincinnati. I mean, imagine that. You look at how late Zach Ertz is going. Look at how late Zach Ertz is going. Let's take a look at it. We'll do it right now in real time. If you don't know his ADP, Zach Ertz is currently going as tight end 13. So, to me, I'm taking Zach Ertz over Jonnu Smith, over Irv Smith, who the Vikings have made no bones about. They are trying to get Tyler Conklin involved in this offense. I'm out on Irv Smith this year. Jared Cook, Evan Ingram, even Mike Gesicki, even Tyler Higbee. I'm taking Zach Ertz because he's going to get it. He's going to get the volume to be a reliable tight end option at Philadelphia, and he's going to get it pretty much anywhere else he gets traded to. And it's probably going to end up being the Bills, is what it sounds like. So I'm in on Zach Ertz. Now, he's going still around, obviously, where Adam Troutman's going. I'll take Troutman, I think, especially with Michael Thomas being out now for what's probably going to turn into the vast majority of the year. I think Troutman is going to be the biggest beneficiary from a receiving standpoint on that entire offense. So I'm all over Adam Troutman as a sleeper tight end. But I think Ertz and Goddard are going to be fine. I'm taking, between the two, I'm drafting Dallas Goedert first, regardless of whether or not Zach plays in Philadelphia this year or not. But I think Zach Ertz can be a very, very excellent value at tight end. Mike Brown, could you rank your rookie running backs? Or, excuse me, your rookie quarterbacks. Could you rank your rookie quarterbacks? Yes, I'll rank them. And I'm assuming you're talking about for 2021. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is, a lot of people would think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be number 1. I actually have him as number 2. I have him as number 2. I think I want to preface this by saying Trevor Lawrence is my number 1 running back, number 1 rookie quarterback in the draft. Trey Lance is my number 2, and that is solid. That is not changing. It has not changed. I think Trey Lance is going to be the second best quarterback in this draft. In 8 years, we're going to look back, Trey Lance is the guy. He might be the best. He might turn out to be the best. Trevor Lawrence, going to be a top 2. But I think fantasy-wise, year 1, I think Justin Fields is going to pay the most dividends year 1 in fantasy. I think he's going to be in the rookie of the year discussion. This is a team that fought for the playoffs with Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback. So what do you think they're going to do, okay, with Justin Fields at quarterback? Getting Tariq Cohen back. Yeah, this is going to be a competitive football team in Chicago. Now, they need to get with Justin Fields sooner than later. I wouldn't trot him out there in week 1. Take your loss to the Rams, okay, and make Justin Fields the starter in week 2 and go from there. But you got to get Justin Fields on the field because now your job's on the line. You and Ryan Pace. I'm talking to Matt Nagy. So I think that for this year, Justin Fields is the guy. Number 2, I have Trevor Lawrence, and number 3, I do have Trey Lance. Zach Wilson is close to Trey Lance, but I think Trey is going to end up starting sooner than we think. And I don't think he's going to waste any time. I think Trey Lance is going to be dynamite from the minute he starts, from the minute he takes a snap. So that is how, and then of course Mac Jones is behind Zach Wilson. I like Mac Jones. I think all these guys are going to be solid NFL quarterbacks. I really, really do. But again, this is just this year. Moving forward, it's Trevor Lawrence, it's Trey Lance, and I think it's probably Zach Wilson would be my 3rd, and then Mac and Justin are fighting for that 4th spot. And I know a lot of Justin Fields fans want to get on to me for that, but I do think that's pretty much how it's going to turn out. So that's how I would rank the rookie quarterbacks for this year and moving forward. Matthew Bright says DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson, Darrell Henderson. Pick 1. I'll just put them in order for you and make it easy. DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson, Darrell Henderson. It's that order for me. Very, very close. I think Swift and Gibson could be interchangeable. But right now I have Darrell Henderson as a tentative sort of RB 16, 17. He's right there with David Montgomery and Chris Carson. So we'll see how they use him. If it's a workhorse role, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be, so I'm going to have to adjust that, I think, a little bit. But Darrell Henderson, to me, is definitely a distant 3rd when it comes to those guys as well. All right, a couple more of these. Let's see. Kevin, we talked about Logan Thomas a little bit. He's a value as a tight end 1, I think. I think Logan Thomas will be a top 10 tight end in fantasy. He has the upside to be a top 5 tight end in fantasy. Offense, I think, is going to throw a lot. I think they're going to throw efficiently, and they're going to throw a lot more with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Hopefully it doesn't turn into Ryan Fitztragic anytime soon. But I do think this is going to be a much improved passing offense, and I think Logan Thomas is going to be a big reason for that. So I think Logan Thomas is a big fantasy value. But Jerry Wilt wants to talk about Gerald Everett. I don't. Look, I'm not. Gerald Everett is what he is. He's an okay tight end, and in real life, but he's not. I'm avoiding him at all costs in fantasy. I'm not touching him with when he's playing with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and Chris Carson's. I'm not. I don't want any part of Gerald. Even in 2 tight end leagues, I'm getting my second tight end out of the way before I feel compelled to draft Gerald Everett. I'm not in on that at all. So that to me is definitely not going to be where I'm going at tight end. So I'm 100%, 150% sell on Gerald. I don't even think you could sell Gerald Everett, to be honest with you. But maybe to the right person. George says the other C-Mac. That's right, the original Run CMC. Fun fact: I had the handle Run_CMC on Instagram before Christian McCaffrey. I get tagged all the time by people on Instagram when they are trying to refer to Christian McCaffrey with Run CMC. So fun fact about that. And you don't have to follow me on Instagram because I don't use Instagram. So follow me on Twitter at Wizard of Roto. And definitely check out the RotoBros Fantasy Advice Lounge, patreon.com/RotoBros RotoBros. You can check that out. All the information is scrolling across the bottom there for you guys. The other C-Mac, who do you like and provides the best value in the Jacksonville backfield? Also, is Chark a wide receiver 2 this year? Chark is right now I have Chark, DJ Chark ranked as a wide receiver 22. So yes, I do think he is going to be a wide receiver 2 this year. DJ Chark, we have seen, I think he has the upside with a generational quarterback talent. This isn't just any other rookie quarterback. It's Trevor Lawrence. So with him at under center, DJ Chark has a ceiling where he could finish as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. Because again, this team's going to throw a lot. It's going to be a bad defense. Okay? And I think DJ Chark's going to be the man on that team as far as wide receivers are concerned. So yes, I absolutely think he could be a wide receiver 2. And look, if I have to deal with him as my wide receiver 2, I'm fine with it. I'm perfectly fine with DJ Chark as my wide receiver 2. As far as best value in the Jacksonville backfield, I think it's easy to point to James Robinson and say, look what he did last year with the workload, right? And I like James Robinson. I think he's a good player. But the problem is Travis Etienne does have first-round draft capital, and that does matter for running backs, okay? I don't know what Urban Meyer is trying to accomplish with this backfield. Is he trying to create Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt? He could be. And if he does, I think James Robinson is probably going to be the best value. But I think what's going to end up happening is James Robinson is going to be more fantasy relevant at the first half of the year, and you're probably going to be able to sell him mid-season, okay, after the first 7-8 weeks, and you're going to be able to get a very good value on James, because I think toward the end of the year, Travis Etienne, boys, he is going to be he could be a borderline league winner. Now, he's going to have to usurp James Robinson and take some of those rushing, but I think he's going to. I do think he's going to, and I've got in some redraft leagues, I've got Travis Etienne as my RB3 in a lot of leagues, and I'm perfectly fine with it. Because if he is able to usurp James Robinson for rushing touches, and the majority of those, make no mistake about it, Travis Etienne has a Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey type of ceiling. That's where he can go. And what do we always say? For those of you that listen to the pod, what do we always say? Pass catches, receptions for running backs matter more than rushes. Because receptions typically aren't going for negative yardage, right? So on a per-touch basis, receptions mean more. So give me the guy that's going to be catching more passes out of the backfield. I don't care if his ADP is a little bit higher. Give me that guy, because not only am I getting better value for the touches, I'm also getting a much higher ceiling with Travis Etienne if there's an injury to James Robinson. So Travis Etienne would be my answer there. I don't hate James Robinson, but I think you're going to take him, and you need to expect to be able to sell him later on about mid-season. And yeah, somebody says, look, Etienne has been untouchable in camp. We know that. And look, it's camp. I'm not going to read too much into that, okay? But he's doing what he did in college. Are we really surprised to hear that he's been excellent in training camp? No. And I think that's going to translate to game days as well. What is the range of outcomes for David Montgomery? It's not RB4. I don't think it's going to be RB4. I think in order to get RB4, Tariq Cohen's going to have to get hurt again. And he's going to have to take, David Montgomery's going to have to get a lot more of those receptions. I have David Montgomery right now ranked as RB 18 right now. So I think David Montgomery is more set to be an RB2. Okay, mid to late RB2. I don't even know if I feel comfortable with him being a high-end RB2. I can see it, and I love the running back prospect, and I love the player in real life. I love David Montgomery. But I don't think that his range of outcomes is a top 10 running back in the league. I think we would have to have a lot of big injuries at the top half of the running back tier for David Montgomery to be able to get what he did last year. So I don't think we need to be putting his range of outcomes in. I don't think he has that ceiling this year. I just don't. Especially with Justin Fields, who should be able to, cuck him on the goal line a little bit more than Mitch Trubisky did. So we'll see how that turns out. But he's a fringe mid RB2 for me. So I like him, but I'm not doing backflips over Dave Montgomery this year. Let's see here. I think that is all the questions so far. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out for a little bit, taking the time to hang with me and get some of your questions answered. We're going to do this a lot. We're going to do a lot of Q&As, and obviously all of the RotoBros podcasts, the Mind of McConnell pods, the RotoBros pods, the Darkly Dreaming Dynasty pods, they are all going to be live moving forward. So you can watch us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and our Facebook page. You can do all that. So definitely check that out. Again, follow me on Twitter at Mind of McConnell. And you can also check us out. The best place to get a hold of me, actually, is the RotoBros Fantasy Advice Lounge. We've got a lot of patrons that will attest to that. It is an amazing place. You guys will not regret it. Go to patreon.com/RotoBros. It's $2, and the first month is free. You got nothing to lose. You got everything to gain. I can promise you that. I will put my name on it. I'll put my word to it. You will absolutely love it, and you will not want to go anywhere else for fantasy talk, for fantasy advice. It is a great place. We cover it all. So check it out. Again, patreon.com/RotoBros. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. We will see you guys again, hopefully later on this week. I am out.